2, Craig Foss.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Finance and reads, what will be the focus of Budget 2011 and the Government's wider economic program this year?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr. Speaker, today I've announced that Budget 2011 will be on Thursday the 19th of May. It will focus squarely on taking further measures in the Government's program to build New Zealand's national savings, increase investment, create jobs and lift incomes, as well as reducing our vulnerability to foreign debt.
Craig Foss.
Supplementary to the Minister. How will Budget 2011 build on the National-led Government's first two budgets?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, in the Budget 2009 we had to get on top of spiralling debt that was out of control as a result of a recession, as a result of recession and very poor management by the previous government. In Budget 2010, the government changed the incentives in the tax system to reduce the incentive for excessive spending and borrowing and increase the incentive for savings, and we will continue along that line in Budget 2011.
Rahui Katane.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Is the Minister aware that in 2008 Treasury observed that the last recession from 1988 to 1993 had adverse social and economic effects on Māori that lasted for at least a decade? And what will he be doing in Budget 2011 to prevent the same scenario from reoccurring?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the government has moved to prevent that scenario occurring again by supporting the economy through this last recession, and this year we are borrowing $300 million a week to pump into the economy to maintain transfer payments and income support, as well as to underpin publicly funded jobs. In Budget 2011 we'll have a strong focus on investment, that is getting businesses to invest their money so they can create new jobs and lift incomes, and that will certainly benefit Māori.
Craig Foss.
Supplementary. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What specific measures will the government consider to ensure that it contributes to improving New Zealand's national savings?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the government needs to carry some of the weight of improving national savings. Households are doing their bit because they're being careful with their spending, paying off debt and increasing their savings. In fact, they're doing that faster than we expected. However, our government at the moment is driving our external debt up. We need to get hold of government spending in the first place to improve its effectiveness and its focus, and we need to get back to surplus as quickly as we can, so the government is not driving up New Zealand's already very high level of foreign debt.
The Honourable David Cunliffe.
Given that the government's books have deteriorated on the Minister's watch from a surplus of $8 billion as at election day to a debt now of $40 billion, and that he has just admitted the government may be taking the country into a double-dip recession, will he now admit his program's failed and he's got no new ideas for jobs and growth?
Yep. The Honourable Bill English.
Mr. Speaker, no.
Materia Ture.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Why will the Minister not increase the minimum wage to at least $15 an hour, saving around $1 billion in government social services spending?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr. Speaker, the government has made a balanced decision about the minimum wage. On the one hand, we don't want to take measures that will lock particularly young people out of the labour market. On the other hand, people on the minimum wage need to be able to deal with the rising cost of living, and so the government has announced about a 2% increase in the minimum wage.
Craig Foss.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the Minister, what budget measures has the government already rejected and why?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, a number of measures have been proposed that would significantly increase the need for New Zealand to borrow in financial markets that are increasingly reluctant to lend, particularly to countries with already high levels of total debt. So we have rejected $1.3 billion cost of a tax-free threshold up to $5,000. We've rejected the idea of taking GST off fruit and vegetables at a cost of $250 million. and we're not going to be borrowing another $400 million to add to early childhood spending.
Materia Ture.
Is the Minister of Finance, like John Key, proud of the 5% cut in full-time public sector jobs, given his concern about young people and jobs? And if so, why?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, the Prime Minister has outlined his concern to ensure that we provide better public services and do so with less resource. Every other business in New Zealand's gone through that process. Most households in New Zealand have gone through that process, but government hasn't. So we will be investing in improved public services. In some cases that may mean there's less jobs, but in many cases it will mean a better service.
Grant Robertson.
Can the Minister confirm that the grand plan for lifting New Zealand out of economic recession is based on the merger of the Ministry of Fisheries into the Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry? And if so, will it generate more savings than the $165,000 a year being saved by merging archives and library into DIA?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, the government is focusing on considering on a case-by-case basis how to provide better public services for less cost. And in that case, the industry has suggested that such a merger would reduce the levy on the fishing industry. That would help them employ more people, grow more exports and lift incomes across the New Zealand economy. So the government's going to play its part.
Materia Ture.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Why is the Minister of Finance effectively subsidising the wage bills of large corporates like Foodstuffs and Burger King rather than supporting the families who just need a decent job with a living wage?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, when the government came in, despite the fact that it faced significant deficits for a long time, we have maintained the Working for Families program with only minor changes, because we believe that those families need the certainty of the income support, particularly through a recession. Now, whether it's a subsidy on wages is an old argument about income support, but we believe, regardless of what one thinks of that issue, those families need cash support, and this government is borrowing $300 million a week to help ensure they get it.
Question number 3, the Honourable Chris.